So good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, this is the I think second lecture for the subject design of machine element. So you people might be aware about the basics of the syllabus part, and you can say its important criteria of the content, teaching and examination scheme, right? Everything you might be aware about. And the portion distribution is already, I think, the faculty already informed you. So without not wasting much time in this kind of syllabus and its content, we will going to further uh, study the content in which we are going to complete the second portion throughout the semester. So here, as you can see, the main content of the syllabus is in front of you, and you will see there are 9 different chapters. 9 chapters are there in the design of machine element. Yeah, am I audible right now, Ankit? Because there are some issue. Yeah, okay, fine. So now we are dealing with the basics of design of machine element, introductory part, and we will be starting with the chapter in which we are going to study the chapter number 3, which is regarding spring, and 5 different hours will require to complete this particular chapter. So types of spring, what are the different stresses, and deflection equation for the spring, then the design of helical spring, concentric spring, and design of multi-leaf spring. This part we are going to complete for the spring as a part of module number 3, and then we are going to start with the module number 9, which is the design of mechanism. So particularly we are going to study valve gear mechanism for IC engine. Then we are going to study hosting, tackle analysis, wire rope design, crane, hook assembly, and this part we are going to study throughout the semester. This is what we have, the syllabus which is contained, and the important part for this particular subject that I wanted to share with you people is this. Sorry, I was facing some internet issue, so it was disconnected. Right now it is connected, and I think I'm audible to everyone. So I was talking about the 2 important notes which is written in the syllabus. The first one is university theory exam duration. Other than this subject, your duration for the university exam, final exam, is 2.5 hours. For this particular subject, they allowed you for 3 hours to write the exam paper, right? So exam duration is 3 hours, which is because of the content the syllabus is having, the content the examination paper will be having is not in the position to complete within the 2.5 hours, sorry, 2.5 hours. So 3 hours are given for this. And PSG design data book, PSG design data book is permitted during the university exam. So whenever you are appearing for the final exam, university exam taken by GTU, you will be allowed with the help of this book. So this is not an open book exam. It is not like an open book exam, but this is a reference kind of book from which you will take the data, from which you will consider the equation, from which you will consider the design procedure, and according to that you can solve the example, solve the problems or questions given to you in the exam. So that was the syllabus, its content, and our portion which we are going to study throughout the semester that we already discussed. Now directly moving towards the module of a spring, in which we wanted to study design of a spring. So first of all, I will start my session. I will start my session with the definition of spring. What is the meaning of spring, right? So in the mechanical engineering, you will see the function of spring everywhere, right? Whenever you are having some load is acting and you want to suspend that particular load, for that criteria, you will have spring. So here, this is the basic definition of the spring which we are having. Spring is nothing but it is defined as an elastic machine element which deflect under the action of load and return to its original shape when the load is removed. This is a simple definition. Now, can anyone tell me where you have seen the function of spring in your day-to-day life? Any participants, those who are attending the lecture, can give the answer. Can you please tell me where you have seen the spring working in our day-to-day life? Yes, I'm getting so many answers like jumpers in the bike. Very good, Kush. Name, yes, bike stand. Perfect. Anywhere else? You will see there are so many applications in our day-to-day life where we have the spring. Different types of springs are there, right? That types we will, some sofas, very good. Good, good. Yes. So most of you have tried to give your answer very good. Then gun, perfect. Javelin. So spring are there in our day-to-day life, and we wanted to focus on the door closer. Perfect. Very good. So we wanted to see some application, right? It can take any shape and from depending upon the application. So before we start for the different types of spring, let us discuss some important functions and application of the spring. For example, springs are used to absorb shocks and vibrations. For example, vehicle suspension springs. In the railway, they are having a buffer spring in the elevators, right? Vibration mounts for the machinery. So these all are the one example of the spring you can say. Springs are used to store energy. For example, you can see the application of springs in clocks, toys, movie cameras, circuit breakers, starters. All are the equipment in which we are using the spring. Then we have the other important application like the springs are used to measure the force, right? Like in weighing machines, they use the helical spring like this. So in the initial phase, the spring is in the compression form, and if you attach the load at one side of the spring, it will be going to start expanding, and according to the criteria of that, how much spring is being expanded, with the help of the use of stiffness, you can able to calculate the weight of the component. So in the weighing machines scale, the people are using the spring. Other applications like the spring are used to apply the force and control the motion. There are a number of spring which are used for this purpose, right? In the came and follower mechanism, spring is used to maintain a contact between the two element. So this is one of the basic application where the spring is used. In the engine also you will see in the valve gear mechanism spring is used, right? This is used to return the rocker arm and its normal position when it is going to remove. The spring is also used in the clutch, right, which is provided to require the force to engage the clutch. In all this application, the spring is used either to apply the force or to control the motion. So this is the basic application. This is the basic, you can say, the function of the spring where we can use it in our day-to-day life. In actually, I will say in the mechanical component. Once we are aware about the function of spring, we might think how many types of spring are there, and according to their types, where can we use it? This is very important to understand. So there are many types of spring available in the market, right? But majorly it is classified according to their shape. This is the first criteria of classifying the spring. The shape can be helical coil of a wire, piece of stamping, or you can say the flat wound up strip. The most popular type of the spring is helical spring. You have seen helical spring once. I think if I say spring, the direct one picture will come in your mind is a helical spring. So the helical spring is made from a wire, which is usually a circular cross section, which is bent in the form of helix. And according to that criteria, you can divide the helical spring into two major types. One is a compression spring and the other one is a extension spring. You can see both the springs are in front of you here. This one is called compression spring because you will apply a load to compress this particular spring, and this spring is considered as extension spring because you are applying a load in such a way that the spring is being expanded. It should be noted that although the spring is under compression, the wire of the helical compression spring is not subjected to compressive stress. Also, you need to consider this. The wire of a helical extension spring is not subjected to tensile stress, although the spring is under tension. So in both the cases, what will happen? The torsion, shear stress are induced in the wire. And the word which you are considering in front of spring, like a compression or extension, these are related to the total spring and not the stresses in the wire, right? So the helical extension spring, a coil are wound tightly together so that the initial force is required before extension begin. And the helical compression spring are generally classified as closely coiled helical spring and open coil helical spring. These are the basic two criteria of dividing it. So what is the difference between them, right? We need to understand these two parts. One is closely coiled helical spring and the other one is an open coil. See, whenever the helical spring is said to be a closely coiled, at that time the spring wire is coiled so close that the plane containing each coil is almost at right angle to the axis of helix. In other words, you will say the helix angle is approximately very small and it is approximately near to 10 degree. And when I say the helical spring is open coiled, in it is used in such a way that there are a large gap between the adjacent coil. In the other word, I will say the helix angle is very large and it is more than 10 degree for both the end. So these are the basically two consideration in the design of spring, especially in the design of a helical spring, and in different application we can use these different types of spring in a different way. There are few application of a open coiled helical spring compared to the closely coiled helical spring, right? We'll see this in detail in this particular chapter. So the helical spring comparison as well as extension have these advantages. Compression as well as extension have what advantages? The first one is they are easy to manufacture. They are cheaper than other types of spring. Easy to manufacture, cheaper, reliability is very high, and the deflection of the spring is linearly proportional to the force acting on the spring. This is a very important criteria. See, spring must be deflect in such a way, make sure you consider this criteria. The deflection of the spring is linearly proportional to the force. It means how much force you are applying, according to that the deflection of the spring will be there. This is a very good sign of spring, whatever you are designing, because it might not happen that if you apply the force according to some criteria and it will be not going to deflect according to the load, right? So we should also remember this also, that the linear relation between the force and deflection should be there. A helical torsion spring is shown in the figure. Let me show you the figure of the helical torsion spring. But before that, yeah, see this. This is one example of helical torsion spring. So here what will happen in the helical torsion spring? See this. This is the P force which is acting over here. And in the helical torsion spring, which is generally used to transmit the torque to a particular component in the machine, or you can say the mechanism. Let us take one example. I'm applying some force P over here on the helical torsion spring, and it is R distance away from the center of the coil, main coil. So whatever the torque will be produced, it is equal to force into perpendicular distance. So it is P into R. This is the whatever torque which we are having. Now, helical torsion spring is generally used, for example, let me take one application. For example, it is used in the door hinges. For example, it is used in the brush holders, automobile starters. Automobile starter means you are pressing a key to accelerate the vehicle, right? And once you remove that key, after it is uh, after the vehicle started, it will become in the initial position, right? So it is the automobile starter. Then a door locks. Once you open the door lock try to come in the same position where it is previously. Yes, very good. Just like a toy car. Jevin, you are perfectly correct. Good. Just like a toy car, you are applying a key to deviate to uh, making, or you can say by doing the torque, by applying the torque with the help of key, you are storing an energy in the toy. And once you will just let it go, right, the energy will be released and the uh, you can say they are going to run likewise. So in this way, you can say the application of the helical torsion spring, where they are used in the automobile starter, door locks, etc. This helical torsion spring resists the bending moment. Bending moment will be produced because of the force into perpendicular distance, P into R, which tends to wind up the spring. And the bending moment include bending stress in the spring wire, and we can say the term torsion spring is somewhat misleading because of the wire is subjected to bending stress, unlike the torsional shear stress induced in the helical and extension spring. So it should be noted that although the spring is subjected to the torsional moment, the wire is a helical torsion spring, not subjected to torsional shear stress. It is only subjected to bending stress. So whenever we are going to design the helical torsion spring, our design criteria should be according to the bending, right? Because it is having a name of helical torsion spring, but it is because of its criteria, right? Not the way they are working with each other. So at the time of design, we will see the entire design procedure, some important equation, and a real-time example by which we were able to discuss the design of a helical torsion spring. Right now, we are just focusing on the introductory part, the application, how it is working, etc. Then we have a multi-leaf, or we can say laminated spring. Now we can see one kind of spring, semi-elliptic spring is in front of you. Now after looking this kind of spring in this figure, can you please tell me, have you seen this kind of spring anywhere? Have you seen multi-leaf spring, laminated spring, or you can say semi-elliptic leaf spring anywhere? Yeah, very good answers. Javin says truck, Hetav says truck, Neem says truck, Dilip says truck, Munshi says car. Very good. So all of you have given the correct answer. You have seen this in the automobile, right? So this kind of multi-leaf or laminated spring, which consists of a series of a flat plate like this, as you can see it over here. These are the flat plate, usually in the shape of semi-elliptical shape, right? This plate are called leaves, which are having different kind of length. As you can see, this is having the maximum length, the upper leaf, and then continuously you can see the length of the leaf is being decreasing. And the last one is having shortest leaf among the all leaves. So all the leaves are held together by means of U-bolt. You can see this is a U-bolt which is generally used to assemble all the leaf over here. And the longest one, the longest leaf is known as master leaf. This is known as a master leaf, which is bent at the two end to form a spring eye, and the leaves of the leaf spring are subjected to bending stress. Whatever the load is acting, which is acting on the two eyes, right? And it is subjected to bending. So we will also have the separate lectures on the design of multi-leaf spring, right? Which are generally used in the automobile and the railroad suspension. So we will in detail consider the design of a multi-leaf spring in the upcoming lectures. But today we will start our lecture by helical spring. We wanted to study how helical spring work and what is the design criteria in the helical spring. So first of all, we will learn what are the different terminology which is used in the helical spring. Then we will see the different material which is useful in the design of helical spring, how to design a helical spring, design criteria or design procedure, and finally we will take several real-time examples by which we are able to understand the entire design procedure properly. So now let us discuss what are the basic terminology which we can use in the design of helical spring. See, the main dimensions of the helical spring is subjected to compressive force, because what will happen if you consider this is the front view of the spring, and if we are applying a load from the top end like this and like this. If this is the case, then what can we do to design this kind of helical spring? And for that, we have several nomenclatures. The first nomenclature is a wire diameter of a spring, which is denoted by small d. The small wire having a wire diameter which is small d. You can see this dimension as small d. This is capital D. And capital D is the outside diameter of the spring. If it is not, if it is a hollow kind of spring. Outer diameter, this is the inner diameter. DI. So the mean coil diameter is the ratio of these two diameter, DI plus DO divided by 2. It is the mean coil diameter. There is an important parameter in the spring design which is called spring index. So what is the meaning of spring index? It is denoted by capital C, and the value of C can be denoted by capital D divided by small d. So spring index is defined as the ratio of mean coil diameter, means the entire spring diameter, divided by the wire diameter, which is denoted by small d. So spring index, capital C, is very important in the design of spring, and we can consider this relation between the two diameters in the form of spring index. Now in the design of a helical spring, the designer should use good judgment in assuming the value of a spring index C. For example, what will happen? The spring index indicate the relative sharpness of the curvature of coil. If I say my value of C is less than 3, what does it mean? It is low. So when the spring index is low, less than 3, the actual stresses in the wire are excessive because of curvature effect. And in the other word, such spring is difficult to manufacture and special care is required in coiling is required to avoid the cracking in some wires. So whenever the value of C is less than 3, you have to get some difficulty in manufacture the spring. But when the spring index is high, high means greater than 15. If the value of spring index C, if it is greater than 15, it results in large variation in the coil diameter, because C is nothing but it is capital D divided by small d, right? If I say C is my spring index, what I will say? I will say it is capital C is equal to this capital D divided by small d. So if I wanted to increase the value of C, ultimately what I will do? For example, I wanted to increase the value of C, either what I will do, I will increase the value of capital D or I will decrease the value of small d. By doing these two things, you will be able to increase the value of C, which is the spring index. So the high spring index means the variation in diameter. The variation in diameter, coil diameter. So this kind of spring is prone to buckling and also tangles easily during the handling. So the value of C should not be less than 3. It should not be greater than 15. So it is having some specific range. It is suitable if we design a spring according to the spring index within the range of 4 to 12. 4 to 12 range for C is considered as the best from the manufacturing consideration. Therefore, in practical application, the spring index usually varies between 4 to 12. However, the spring index is in the range of 6 to 9 is still preferred, particularly for close tolerance spring and those spring to the cyclic loading. 4 to 12s are allowable, but 6 to 9 is preferred. 6 to 9 is best, right? Whenever the spring is subjected to cyclic loading. Cyclic loading means the value of load is increasing and decreasing vice versa. So this is the best part of the spring by which we can specify the spring index, and it is known as C spring index. Moving further, we have some more nomenclature like a free length, compressed length, and solid length. You can able to see the same different kind of length in the figure. So let us discuss what is the meaning of a solid length. First one is a solid length. Can anyone tell me, by looking into the name itself, how can you define the solid length of the spring? Yeah, I'm getting several answers like when there is no load in the spring, okay, length of the spring in compressed state, yeah, correct. See, what will happen whenever I will say solid length? Solid length means once you will compress this spring in the axial direction, whatever will be the length of the spring is considered as solid length of the spring. And in this case, the spring is completely compressed and there is no further possibility of compression. Right? Once you will fully compress it and after applying more load, if still it is not in position to compress, then the entire length is considered as a solid length and it can be denoted by using this equation. Solid length is equal to nt into d, where nt is nothing but the total number of coil and small d is the wire diameter. So the solid length, which means number of coils multiplied by the wire diameter. So you can easily visualize the solid length by utilizing this equation. Now, if I say compressed length, what is the meaning of compressed length? It is defined as the axial length of the spring which is subjected to maximum compressive force. In this case, what will happen? The spring is subjected to, for example, maximum deflection delta. When the spring is subjected to maximum force, it is obviously having a maximum deflection delta, and there should be some gap, or you can say the clearance between the adjacent coil, because it is now not in the fully solid state, or you can say the solid length. So there should be some gap, or you can say the clearance between the adjacent coil. This gap is essential. It is very much required to prevent the clashing of the coils. And the clashing allowance or the total axial gap is considered as approximately 15% of the maximum deflection, right? So that there will be there. Sometime an arbitrary decision is taken and it is assumed that there is a gap of 1 to 2 mm between the adjacent coil under the maximum load condition. So what will happen in the case? Axial gap is denoted by this equation. Nt minus 1, it means number of coil minus 1 multiply by the gap between adjacent coil. So in this way, we are going to calculate the value of total gap by using this equation. Total gap is equal to Nt minus 1 multiplied by whatever the gap is there in between the adjacent coil. You can see this, sorry. You can see here this tree figure where the spring length terminology in the case of free length, compressed length, and solid length, you can easily compare by using this equation. This is very easy to compare, right? By using this terminology, you will able to understand the free length, compressed length, and a solid length by using this equation. So now let us understand what is the meaning of free length, which is defined as the axial length of an unloaded helical compression spring. In this case, there is no external force acting on the spring, and free length is an important dimension in the spring design and manufacturer, because it is the length of the spring whenever it is in the free condition prior to assembly. So always in every real-time example, you will able to get the criteria of free end. The criteria of free end. So free length, which is generally having the equation of compressed length plus delta, where compressed length is nothing but it is the solid length plus total axial gap. plus delta, and in this equation you will get the value of free length. Then one important parameter that will come in picture is the pitch. Pitch is nothing but it is the axial distance between the adjacent coil whenever it is in the uncompressed state of spring, and this is generally denoted by the value of small p. Small p is nothing but it is free length divided by nt minus 1. Nt means total number of coil. Stiffness, it is also very important to understand the stiffness of the spring is defined as the force required to produce unit deflection. P is the force, right? P is the axial force which you are having, and delta is the deflection. This is the axial spring force. And delta is nothing but it is deflection. So you can get this particular equation K is equal to P divided by delta, where you have the value of P is equal to the axial spring force and delta is equal to the axial deflection of the spring corresponding to the force P. There are various names for the stiffness of the spring. For example, the rate of spring. If you use this word rate of spring, it means it is stiffness. If I say the gradient of spring, it is nothing but it is stiffness. If I say the scale of spring, it is also considered as the stiffness. And if I only use this word simply spring constant, it is nothing but it is the stiffness. So the stiffness of the spring, which represents the slope of the load deflection line, and there are two terms which are related to the spring coil. One is an active coil and the other one is a inactive coil. Active coil means which contribute to spring action, support the external force, deflect under the force, which is active, right? A portion of the end which is generally come in contact with the seat, which does not contribute to the spring action. So they are called as a inactive coil. They are just there for attached somewhere else. So inactive and active are very important. Inactive means whatever active coils you are having, apart from them, they are called inactive. So inactive is equal to total minus active. Then you are having a different style of end, because once you are going to design a helical compression spring, you might aware about the free end, free style, compressed spring, right? Solid length, free length. This part you might aware about, but both the end of the spring they are having some style because of the specific reason. So generally in design of the helical compression spring, we learn four common methods which are used in the forming ends of the helical compression spring. We show you the figure of in detail: plane end, ground end, square end, and square and ground end. These are the four different methods by which you can design different types of end over here. The turns at the two end do not affect the deflection calculated by the load deflection equation. Therefore, while calculating the number of active turn, the end turn should be subtracted from the total number of turn, and you will get the number of active turn for the different types of end. So it is very important part which is required for the design. What we required the number of active turns at the time of design. So according to the different types of end, we are having the different number of active turns, which is denoted by N. So how you will get the value of N? Before that, you must have the value of NT. NT means total number of turn. So once you have the value of total number of ton, you can then calculate the active number of ton, N. So for the plane end, it is equal to the number of active turns. For the plane end, which is also grounded, it is NT minus half. If it is a square end, you have to subtract total minus 2. And similarly, for the square end ground, it is total minus 2. Likewise, you have the different types of end and its active number of turns. Let me show you the figure of this same. You can see here 4 different types of end. One is a plane end. This one is plane and ground. You can see it is a grounded over here. As you can see it over here. It is plane and ground. This one is a square end. At the end you will see this is a square. This is square and ground end. So the end style of the spring, particularly in the helical spring, plays an important role in the design of spring. So the different style of end for the helical extension spring, which you can see in the figure, the end should be designed in such a way that the stress concentration at the bend is minimum. You have to focus on this criteria, stress concentration, because while designing it and comparing the same thing with respect to the stress concentration, whenever the load is acting on the spring for the design is very important. Sometimes the effect of stress concentration in the end is so severe that the spring body becomes stronger than ends, and the failure will occur at end coils. So for the helical extension spring, all the coil which are active coil and the number of active coil is equal to the number of total number of coil, as we have seen in the table. Here you will see this is the figure by which you will able to understand the end style of a helical extension spring. You can see it is like a V shape. So it is a V hook, rectangular hook. If the end is according to the application, we have a rectangular hook, full hook, real shape of hook, and extended kind of hook. Likewise. So this is what we have learned today regarding the different types of spring classification, broad classification, and the important terminology with respect to the helical compression spring. Now from the next lecture onward, we will continue our session with the actual design and a stress and deflection equation, which are very important in the design of spring. But meanwhile, for today's lecture, if you people are having any query or any doubt regarding today's session, please you feel free to ask in case of any query in today's lecture. Anyone? Please feel free to ask if you are having any query today in this particular lecture. Otherwise, that's it for the today's lecture. We'll keep the session up to this for today. Please you do write your full name and your enrollment number in the chat box for the attendance of today's lecture. We'll see you soon in the next lecture. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.